Hello and welcome to Who Dares Rolls TV. I am your host, Mike B. And today we're going to be looking at Imperial Settlers Roll Write, the new release from Portal Games. Imperial Settlers was when my love affair of Portal Games really took flight. Up to then it had been a couple of dates, some chocolates, but we never got past first base. You see, our relationship had hit a rocky patch. Robinson Bastard Crusoe is all I have to say on the matter. I mean, how do you pick yourself up after that? The constant bombardment of ill feeling, death, terrible weather and rabid monkeys. It's really hard to build any sort of trust after that sort of experience. Then Settlers bounced into my life with its cartoony aesthetic and bright primary colours. It was this Hugh Grant rom-com versus Robinson Crusoe's Leaving Las Vegas. I finally learned to love again. Settlers is and will remain one of my favourites. And as a taster to diving into this new iteration, we checked out the old game the other day, cracked it open, given it a go for old time's sake, and well, things got emotional. For those ill-informed of you out there who've not played Imperial Settlers, it's an engine building game of you nurturing your empire from its very early roots, from its first unsteady steps to become an efficient apple-producing, victory point churning out point-scoring machine. And it's still as solid now as it was when it appeared on my doormat, giving me that come-hither look in its eye. But what is this strange new thing, this roll and write of which you speak? Up to now, this apparent trend in the hobby to attach the use of crayons and sitting in a corner and sketching off boxes like a bingoholic to pretty much apply it to every theme has passed me by. I have remained untouched and unsullied by this roll and write phenomenon. I guess it's time to find out what all this newfangled rolling and writing is all about. Essentially, this is the original Imperial Settlers, but distilled down to its very essence. No fluff, no unnecessary adornments, nothing but you, a pad of paper, and the unwavering need to construct the most efficient engine to create you victory points. In the box, you will find 4 pencils, handy for this writing lark, 4 custom wooden dice, which are lovely and chunky, and I'm not usually a fan of wooden dice, but these are pretty sweet, and again, really useful for the rolling. Some tiles, these are favour tokens, and these score pads, lots of score pads. In a nutshell, what we're going to do is roll your dice. They inform you of how many actions, what resources you have to work with that round, and then you decide on what to tick off on your sheets. We're going to do that over 10 rounds, and at the end of that, well, whoever has the most points, most score, will win the game. So, in the standard game, each player gets one of the empire sheets, like this. Across the top here are buildings that basically give you victory points for cashing in resources and actions, with the blue stars representing the victory points. Below them are these fields that when you've built bridge, giving you access to them, you can then use an action to grab those resources. And then there's further bridges down each of the fields, so you have to link them up. But you will get victory points for doing that. But there's more. In addition to the empire sheet that you've got there, everyone else will also receive a village sheet, and everyone's got the same one. And what you can do with this is you can build the buildings that you can see on this sheet. Once they're built, they will then generate the income or give you the ability that's on that building every round then going forward. So kind of getting these things up and ready and running early is probably a good idea. So that's everything that happens in the basic game. However, there is an advanced game that you can use if you want to make the game more advanced. It's really not a massive stretch from really the base game. And if you're playing maybe with muggles, you might not want to, or younglings, or maybe the terminally stupid, you might want to keep them out, but other than that, you can probably throw them into the mix. So, in the corner of each of the buildings on the village sheet, you will see there is a like a Tetris-shaped shape for each of these buildings, all different. So what you can do during the game, as you tick off stuff on your empire sheet, if you ever reach a point where you can outline across the stuff you've completed one of these building shapes, then great. What it will do is it will increase the income or the generation of that building area. Also, if you look down the very bottom left of that sheet there, down there, there's that yellow building, the architect building. Now it's not used in the base game, but with the advanced rules, you can just be building that shape just to gain you, I think, 7 victory points every round. So that's just an added twist to the game, something else thrown in there. It's kind of a nice addition, actually. It just adds a little bit more depth, something else to think about while you're playing. So during a round, the first player rolls the dice, The pink dice is how many actions you got. The other dice will represent the resources that you will have available to you that round. And everyone is sharing these things all at the same time. Then, in turn order, the first player will pick one of these, the tokens, the favour tokens. They will give you a very tiny buff, maybe an extra resource or possibility of converting some resources into victory points. It's not a massive leap forward. It's just kind of like a little bit of a buff on there. And that will go around in turn order. So every round, someone will always get first pick on that as we play for the game. And then pretty much what happens after that is everyone sits there and uses the resources and actions in how they see fit to do it with their sheets. Boom, they all go sit down and you're quietly, silently go and do that until everyone's completed. And then that's the end of the round. Any resources, anything not used is lost. And then rinse, repeat. We keep doing that until 10 rounds are up. And there's more. Included with the game is another pad of sheets that will allow you to play this as a solo game. It works exactly the same as the rules I've just covered, but you'll have each game you'll play will have a different sheet of village buildings. And as you can see, they're all different. They all got different abilities, all different things they're going to do, different resources they're going to give you. And there's about 49 of them in there. So there's like lots of replayability. Plus, of course, you can go and download some more off the Portal Games website. But there's even more. Literally in the last couple of days, Portal has dropped on the interwebs the other day another way to use those solo sheets if you're never going to play a solo game in multiplayer games. Over 10 games, there's a whole tournament-y, well, adventure game mode for multiplayer that's on there. You can either order the sheets from Portal if you want to get extra sets of them, or the files to download and do it that way. So that's another way of playing. Fantastic. So there you go. So what do we think of all of this roll and write Imperial Settler type shenanigans then? So it's solid fun. I'm not one for solo playing, but I actually gave it a whirl and I really enjoyed that. It was really kind of like an interesting little sort of just sit on your corner and puzzle it out. That was kind of cool. I could see this possibly being implemented into an app at some point. I know a lot of those honours have come out. Competitively, it works well there as well. The only thing is there's, and I think it's a roll and write thing, there's minimal interaction between players, which, as I say, I think is a common roll and write complaint. And there's that feeling of kind of sat playing solo Sudoku on your own. It's engrossing, it's enjoyable, not a major issue at all there. Now, I mean, the original game was never big on giant big dollops of player interaction, but sadly there's no option to raid an opponent, which was a much enjoyed and horrible bit of naughtiness for the original game. How that would have been implemented in this version, not too sure. Maybe just give you a big rubber you're allowed to go over and just kind of rub off someone's stuff on their page. That'd be quite amusing. So really then it comes down to is how efficiently you can make the best of what was on offer throughout the game. Everyone's getting the same resources to start with and the same actions. So it then comes down to, once you've finished, actually, there's an interesting post-game autopsy of who did what right and who just clearly screwed the pooch with how they chose to do stuff. So there is that. It's quite an interesting thing to just discuss and see who was most efficient, who did that. But yeah, that's one negative possibly. It's a mild negative, that there isn't any real feel of you doing stuff for anyone else during the game. If there's one negative, it's tracking all of these resources and actions late game. I mean, Imperial Settlers was always about the mental gymnastics required for you to efficiently use every single resource and to gain the most amount of victory points. That's always it. It's still the case here, but without any means to tally what you've been used or generated or spent. And when the last few turns of the game can see you juggling multiple different incomes and outcomes, and heaven forbid that you change your plans midpoint, there's a high probability you could possibly have a seizure and soil yourself. That's kind of what it's at. It is, you're like, oh, did I take the apple? No, what did I do? Oh, so that is an issue. The best solution is obviously you owning a copy of the original Imperial Settlers and using those tokens, or some tokens out of the 100 other games that you fucking own. Duh. I mean, yes, they could have probably put maybe a couple of token sheets in there, something. I mean, you can write on the sheet, you can keep a track of it, but it is the one thing that is a little bit of an impairment because, as I say, the numbers and the stuff you're generating late game can be a bit of a brain screw. So bear that in mind, but it's not insurmountable. Aside from that, the rulebook is another solid effort from Portal, who seem to have really got their act together with these, and it's clear, concise. And hey, look at the box lid, even has a simple diagram for explaining how to play the games, and it could be used as a dice tray. How amazing. All in all, this is pretty good fun. It's fast, it's simple dilution of the core game, pretty portable, and we keep you entertained while we wait for The Invaders of the North Sea that's coming out later in the year. So, I have been Mike B, and this was Who Dares Rolls TV. Don't forget to subscribe, to follow us. If you're feeling flush, you could even donate to our Patreon account. Think about it like leaving a tip. And after being served all this nutritious reviewery goodness, why the bloody hell wouldn't you want to?